The smell of coffee filled the air as the morning rush quieted, and Emily stood frozen beside table 7, staring at the untouched mug of black coffee she'd just poured. The old man who sat there every morning, Mr. Raymond, wasn't there. His booth, the one by the window with the view of Main Street, was empty for the first time in 2 years. It felt wrong, like a missing heartbeat in the rhythm of her day. She wiped her hands on her apron and forced herself to take another order, but her voice trembled. Every morning, 7:15 sharp, he came in with the same gray coat, the same slow shuffle, and that same gentle smile that always said more than his words ever did. And every morning Emily had his order ready before he even sat down. Black coffee, 2 sugars, no cream, and the blueberry muffin warmed for exactly 20 seconds. But today, nothing. Just that steaming cup waiting for someone who didn't come. Maybe he's just running late, her co-worker Tina said, stacking plates. But Emily knew. Mr. Raymond was never late. Not once. She tried to shake it off, but her hands wouldn't stop trembling. She'd learned to read people from behind the counter, the tired truckers, the impatient businessmen, the mothers with screaming toddlers, but Mr. Raymond was different. He never complained, never rushed, and always asked about her mom, who was sick back then. Somehow, his quiet presence had become the one steady thing in her unpredictable life. By 9 a.m., Emily couldn't take it anymore. She filled a paper cup with coffee, slipped the muffin into a napkin, and told her manager she'd be right back. Please like, share, and subscribe if you believe a small act of kindness can change a life, because what happens next proves it can. She stepped out into the crisp morning air, the sound of her sneakers echoing against the cracked sidewalk as she made her way down to the little park where Mr. Raymond sometimes went after breakfast. The bench near the fountain was empty. The pigeons pecked at crumbs where his wrinkled hands should have been scattering them. She frowned, glancing toward the corner store. That's when she saw him, or rather the outline of him, inside an ambulance parked near the curb. Her heart dropped. She sprinted before her mind caught up with her body, the coffee spilling down her wrist. "Wait, that's Mr. Raymond!" she shouted, but the paramedics were already closing the doors. A police officer stepped in front of her. "Ma'am, do you know the gentleman?" "Yes, he comes to my diner every morning." "What happened?" The officer sighed. Neighbors found him on the floor of his apartment. "Looks like he fell sometime last night. He's alive, but it's bad. The world went quiet." She looked down at the cup trembling in her hand, at the steam fading into the cold air. "Can I go with him?" she whispered. The officer hesitated, then nodded. "Get in." At the hospital, the beeping machines and antiseptic smell hit her all at once. She stood by the bed, staring at the frail man hooked to tubes and wires. His face looked smaller, softer somehow. She'd never realized how old he really was until that moment. When his eyes fluttered open, a weak smile formed. "Emily, you brought my coffee!" Tears filled her eyes. "Of course I did. You didn't come in, so I got worried." He chuckled faintly. "I didn't mean to scare you, sweetheart. Guess I just ran out of gas for a bit." She took his hand, it was cold but steady, and sat beside him. They talked for hours that day, about everything and nothing. He told her he used to be a high school teacher, lost his wife 10 years ago, had no children. "You're the only person I talk to every day," he said softly. "You make the world feel less empty." Emily tried to smile, but the lump in her throat was too heavy. "You make my world feel less crazy," she said. He drifted off to sleep with that smile still on his face. Over the next few weeks, Emily visited him every morning before her shift, bringing his coffee and muffin just the way he liked. She learned the nurses' names, cracked jokes with the staff, and sometimes just sat quietly by his side when words weren't enough. Then one morning she walked into his room and the bed was empty. The sheets were folded neatly. A small envelope sat on the nightstand with her name written in shaky letters. Her stomach twisted as she tore it open. "Dear Emily, thank you for making an old man's last years worth waking up for. I didn't have much family left, but you gave me one without even knowing. I've left something for you, something I hope helps you the way you helped me. Keep being kind, even when the world isn't. You're the reason I still believed in people. With love, Raymond. Her hands shook as she read it again and again, her tears dropping onto the paper. The nurse came in quietly and handed her a small key. He wanted you to have this, she said. The key led to a safety deposit box downtown. Emily went after her shift, unsure what to expect. Inside, she found a small box wrapped in brown paper. When she opened it, there was a folded photo of Raymond and his late wife standing in front of a diner, not hers, but one that looked strikingly similar. Beneath it lay a letter from the bank, deed transfer enclosed. She blinked in disbelief. Raymond had owned a small piece of property on the edge of town, the one where her diner's old sign used to hang before new owners took over. It wasn't much, but it was hers now. That night, Emily sat alone at her apartment, staring at the deed. She thought about all the mornings she'd poured him coffee without realizing she was pouring comfort into someone's lonely life. She thought about how kindness doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just sits quietly across the table, remembering your order and asking about your day. A year later, Emily used her savings and that small property to open her own little cafe. She called it Ray's Place. The first thing she hung on the wall was a framed photo of Mr. Raymond with his old diner apron, smiling like he still belonged behind the counter. Every morning she brewed a cup of black coffee, added 2 sugars, no cream, and placed it by the window. Customers would ask who it was for, and she'd smile softly. "It's for a friend," she'd say. People came in not just for coffee, but for comfort, because the warmth in that cafe wasn't just from the mugs. It was from the story behind them. A story about how a waitress and an old man found family in the simplest moments. And sometimes, when the morning light hit just right through the glass, Emily swore she could see his reflection in the booth, smiling back at her.